I still remember the exact moment I realized I had fallen in love with someone who would never love me back. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, and I was standing in the campus coffee shop watching him charm another girl with that signature smile of his, the one that made everyone believe that we're special. My heart didn't just break. That day it shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one cutting deeper than the last, because the truth was I had spent 6 months convincing myself I could be the exception to his rule, the one girl who could change the notorious player everyone warned me about, and standing there, clutching my coffee like it was the only thing keeping me grounded, I finally understood what a fool I had been. His name was Ryan Matthews, and he was everything your mother warns you about, wrapped in a devastatingly handsome package. Captain of the basketball team, president of the most popular fraternity on campus, an owner of a smile that could make you forget your own name. He collected hearts the way some people collect stamps, casually and without any real attachment. Everyone knew his reputation, everyone whispered about it in hallways and dorm rooms, but when he looked at you, really looked at you, it felt like you were the only person in the entire world, and that was his gift. Or perhaps his curse. He made you believe in magic, even when you knew better. I met him during freshman orientation week. Though he didn't notice me then, I was invisible, just another face in a sea of eager first years trying to find their place in a world that suddenly felt too big and too overwhelming. But I noticed him. How could I not? He moved through crowds like water, effortlessly charming everyone he encountered. I told myself I would stay away from him, that I was too smart to fall for someone like that. I had plans for my life, ambitions that didn't include getting my heart broke by a boy who treated relationships like a sport. If you believe in the power of second chances and the kind of love that transforms us, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything, and it helps us continue share stories that touch hearts and remind us all of our shared humanity. But fate has a funny way of ignoring our carefully laid plans. It was October when everything changed. During a charity event I had volunteered to photograph for the campus newspaper, I was crouched behind my camera, trying to capture candid moments of students participating in various fundraising activities, when someone literally tripped over my equipment bag. That someone was Ryan. He went sprawling across the grass in front of dozens of onlookers, his dignity taking a significant hit. Most people would have been angry or embarrassed. Ryan just laughed, that genuine, unguarded laugh that I would come to know so well. He helped me gather my scattered lenses and memory card, apologizing profusely, even though it was technically my fault for leaving my bag in the walkway. And then he asked if I would send him the photos I had taken during the event. Just like that, we were talking. What started as a simple exchange of photographs evolved into something I hadn't anticipated. Ryan began seeking me out on campus, always with some excuse about needing photography advice or asking about camera settings. At first, I maintained my guard, convinced that I was just another conquest, another name he would add to his list. But slowly, imperceptibly, something began to shift. He would show up at the library where I studied late at night, bringing coffee and asking about my day. He started appearing at places he had reason to be, places that weren't cool or popular, just places where I happened to exist. And in those quiet moments between the noise of campus life, I began to see beneath the carefully constructed facade he showed the world. The real Ryan was nothing like the player everyone believed him to be. He was scared and lonely, trapped in a role he had created for himself years ago, and didn't know how to escape. His parents had divorced when he was 12, a bitter, ugly separation that taught him love was temporary and trust was for fools. So he had learned to leave before he could be left, to keep everyone at arm's length where they couldn't hurt him. Every girl he had dated, every heart he had supposedly broken, was actually his own form of self-preservation. He was so terrified of experiencing real connection that he had convinced himself he was incapable of it. And somehow, in sharing his vulnerability with me, he began to crack open the armor he had spent years building. By December, we were inseparable. Though neither of us dared to put a label on what we had become, we would spend hours talking about everything and nothing, lying on the roof of his fraternity house and counting stars while he shared dreams he had never told anyone else. He wanted to be an architect, to create spaces where people could build genuine connections and lasting memories. He talked about his little sister who looked up to him and how guilty he felt about being such a terrible role model. He cried one night, actually cried, when telling me about his grandmother who had raised him after his parents split, and who had recently been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I held him while he shook with sobs, and I felt my heart expanding to hold all of his pain alongside my own growing feelings. But the world doesn't stop turning. Just because two people find something precious, The rumors started in January. Whispers that grew louder with each passing day. People began noticing how much time Ryan spent with me, and they had opinions about it. Some of his friends teased him mercilessly about going soft, about being whipped by some random girl who wasn't even part of their social circle. Girls he had previously dated cornered me in bathrooms and hallways. They warnings delivered with saccharine smiles and poison-tipped words. He'll break your heart. They said you're not special. They assured me he's incapable of real love. They promised, and the worst part was, I started to believe them. The distance between us grew gradually, like a crack in ice spreading across a frozen lake. Ryan pulled back, reverting to his old patterns of behavior. I would see him at parties, surrounded by admirers wearing that player smile like a mask. He stopped showing up at the library. He stopped texting me good morning, and I, terrified of becoming another cautionary tale, stopped reaching out. We circled each other on campus like wounded animals, too proud and too scared to bridge the gap that had formed between us. I told myself it was better this way, that I had been foolish to think I could change someone, that I had nearly made the mistake of falling for someone who would inevitably hurt me. That's when I found myself in the coffee shop on that Tuesday afternoon, watching him charm another girl and feeling my heart shatter. I left before he could see me, walking blindly through campus with tears streaming down my face. I went back to my dorm room, crawled into bed, and let myself properly grieve for something I had never really had. I cried for the boy who was too scared to accept love, and I cried for the girl who had been brave enough to offer it anyway. I cried until I had no tears left, until my eyes were swollen and my chest ached with the physical pain of heartbreak. And then, exhausted and empty, I finally fell asleep. I woke to someone pounding on my door. It was after midnight, and for a moment I considered ignoring it, but the knocking persisted, desperate and insistent. When I finally opened the door, Ryan was standing there, soaked from the rain I hadn't realized was falling. He looked terrible, his eyes red and his hands shaking. He pushed past me into the room, pacing like a caged animal, before finally stopping and turning to face me. The words that came pouring out of him were raw and unfiltered, nothing like his usual smooth charm. He told me he had been at a party, surrounded by people, and had suddenly realized he felt completely alone. He told me he had walked out, leaving everyone behind, and had walked for hours in the rain trying to figure out what was wrong with him. And then he had understood he wasn't broken or incapable of love. He had been in love with me for months, terrified and fighting it every step of the way, because loving someone meant giving them the power to destroy you. He told me about watching me leave the coffee shop earlier, about seeing the pain on my face, and finally understanding what his cowardice was costing us both. He said he had spent his entire life running from connection, convinced that everyone eventually leaves, so it was better to leave first. But running from me hadn't brought him peace or protection. It had only brought him misery. He was tired of being the person everyone expected him to be, tired of playing a role that no longer fit, tired of denying himself the one thing he wanted most in the world. And what he wanted, what he needed, was me. I should have made him work for it. I should have protected my heart, sent him away. But standing there, looking at this beautiful, broken boy who had finally found the courage to be honest, I made a different choice. I chose to be brave too. I chose to believe in second chances and the transformative power of real love. I chose him and us and the uncertain but beautiful future we could build together. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever been brave enough to love someone despite the risks, please take a moment to like and share this video. Let us know in the comments if you believe people can truly change when they find the right person. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need to hear stories of hope and transformation. That was 3 years ago. Ryan is different now, though not in the ways people might expect. He's still charismatic and charming, still lights up rooms when he walks in, but now he only has eyes for one person, and he tells me every single day that choosing to love me was the bravest and best decision he ever made. We graduated together last spring, and yes, he's studying architecture, creating those spaces for connection he once dreamed about. He's teaching his little sister about real relationships and showing her that being vulnerable is strength, not weakness. And sometimes, and when we're lying together in the quiet hours of the night, he thanks me for seeing past the player everyone else saw, for recognizing the real person hiding underneath. Before we end, please leave a comment below telling us, do you believe people can truly change for love? We read every single comment, and your stories inspire us. People ask me sometimes if I ever worry about his past, if I'm afraid he'll revert to old patterns. The truth is, I'm not. Because Ryan didn't change for me, he changed for himself, because he finally found someone who made him want to be better, braver, and more honest. I was just the catalyst, the person who loved him enough to show him what was possible. And in return, he taught me that sometimes the biggest risk brings the greatest reward, that walls are built to be torn down, and that even players can learn to play for keeps. When they find their game changer, he was a player, yes. Until he met me, but more accurately, he was a scared boy pretending to be invincible. Until someone showed him that real strength lies in letting people in, and together, we learned that love isn't about changing someone or being changed. It's about choosing each other every single day and building something real from the broken pieces we all carry. That's our story, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it.